Good evening, I'm Jennifer Meckles. The foreperson of the jury that hung on murder charges against a former Clear Creek County deputy says a holdout on that jury was biased and shouldn't have been there. In her first TV interview, the foreperson told us other jurors spent 2 whole days trying to convince this one person that the evidence was clear, but that they wouldn't budge. 9 News reporter Steve Stager has covered this Christian Glass shooting, this case, since the very beginning. You were the first reporter to speak to members of the jury, and Steve, this foreperson did not mince words about what happened behind closed doors.
No, she said this juror should not have been selected for the jury solely because they refused to admit that a police officer could ever be in the wrong. On Friday, the jury hung on second-degree murder and official misconduct counts against former Clear Creek deputy Andrew Buen after 2.5 days of deliberations. Christy Engelkirk is a defense attorney by trade who was selected as the jury's foreperson. She says within 30 minutes of deliberation, the vote was 10-2 for a conviction on all counts. She says the other no vote ended up bending a bit, saying that they would convict Andrew Buen of one of the lesser charges, criminally negligent homicide. Engelkirk says this one strict holdout seemed to have an agenda to get on this jury and wanted to declare a hung jury immediately. She said the holdout expressed a bias that police can do no wrong and should have immunity in cases like this. They tried to convince the holdout for days. It didn't work, and it led to several members of the jury walking out in tears, looking at Christian Glass's family in the courtroom after their indecision was announced.
My heart goes out to them. I am so sorry for everything that they have been through, and I want them to know how hard I tried, and that, you know, I know a hung verdict is really, really disappointing, and I want them to know that, you know, it wasn't because we were confused on the evidence. It wasn't because it was unclear. It was because there was someone on the jury who should not have been there.
So we just wrapped that interview. We'll have much more of it tonight at 9 and 10. Jurors are not required by the court to speak, but Engelkirk says she felt she owed it to Christian Glass's parents to speak up. 4 other jurors and an alternate who didn't want to be identified, they sat by Engelkirk's side during that interview. Prosecutors and the defense back in court tomorrow afternoon to discuss how to handle sentencing on the 1-count Buen was convicted of, reckless endangerment. That's a misdemeanor. The prosecution could retry Buen on the hung counts. They haven't made a decision on that yet. In the studio, Steve Stager, 9 News.
Steve, our legal expert told us after this case on Friday that the choice to retry a case sometimes depends on whether or not a jury will share with the legal teams where they came to their indecision.
Yeah, and we know
you are talking to a juror, 4 or 5 others sitting in the background. So clearly they want to share what went south here.
Yeah, Jenny, we know that in this case, we know that Christy Engelkirk went right to the DA to say retry this case. We know that the alternate juror, the holdout juror, actually went and spoke to the defense right after this case. From her understanding, she watched it happen right there. So there's been a lot of talk about what to do moving forward. Engelkirk says she's hoping that the DA does retry this case, but she's really hoping that Buen takes a deal based on the knowledge now that it was so close to a conviction, so it doesn't have to put Christian's family through this all over again.
Okay. Again, Steve has covered this case in the beginning. We will have more on this story and that interview coming up later tonight at 9 and 10. Steve Stager, thank you. Let's take a live look outside at the Eisenhower-Johnson tunnels now. There will be some lane closures at the tunnels over the next few days as CDOT does some maintenance work. Warmer weather and the start of May, in just a couple days, can you believe that, marks the start of summer watering rules. For folks using Denver water, no lawn watering between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Got to water during the cooler times of the day. Denver Water says aim for 2 days a week. Only add a 3rd day if it's absolutely necessary, and fix any leaking sprinkler systems within 10 days. Denver Water also says longer the grass, the more water efficient. Warmer weather also means boating season. Today, Spinney Mountain State Park opened for boating. The park opened 30 minutes before sunrise. Elitch Gardens also now open for the season, 1 day late actually. The park planned to open yesterday, but yesterday's weather was terrible to open a water park. So rain bumped them back an extra day. Now let's bring in Lauren Robinson. We were soaked yesterday, and I saw that sun peeking out finally today.
That's right, and that's what we were expecting. We were expecting some peaks of sunshine through the clouds, maybe some afternoon to evening, very spotty showers. No washout expected today, but we do still hold those chances for a spotty shower, maybe a pop-up storm. Nothing expected to be anywhere near severe, but we are still seeing some light snowfall up in the high country, so let's go over some snow totals. We'll start with the high country here. off to the right, my right, where we're going to see Mount Audubon reported 25 inches of snow, over 25 inches of snow, over 24 inches reported in Longs Peak. Red Feather Lake's reporting almost 15.5 inches, 13 inches reported in Breckenridge and Aspen Park. Nederland reported 12.5 inches. And then across the Front Range, we saw some high totals as well. Golden got just over 6 inches, 4.5 reported down in Monument. Lone Tree saw 4 inches, 3 inches in Lakewood and Aurora, and then 1.5 in downtown Denver. So we got some good moisture yesterday, and some areas still seeing some moisture. That's mostly the high country, still seeing some light but scattered snow showers, especially central and northern portions of the high country. We're also going to watch for a few spotty storm possibilities as some of this moisture escapes its way into the Front Range and Eastern Plains. You can see a couple of lightning bolts here and there, but again, none of this is expected to become widespread or severe. So as far as severe weather is concerned, most of the state just under general thunderstorm category, meaning maybe a quick downpour, gusty winds, maybe some lightning and thunder. That's about it. So as we move forward to our 7-day forecast, we're going to talk more about these spotty showers tonight. We do have a warm and sunny Monday and Tuesday actually ahead, but midweek we're going to watch for more storm chances. So I'll have all of those details for you just ahead of my full 7-day forecast.
Lauren, thank you. A brand new Colorado law just signed last week will bring big changes to how sexual assault court cases are handled. 9 News reporter Jaleesa Irizarry shares the details.
This legislative session is down to just a few days. The time to make change is running out for some and finally arrived for others.
It's about time. I think it brings fairness, and in that fairness, it brings hope that people can get justice, that people can seek care for what happened to them.
Ana Martinez is the co-director of Client Services at Blue Bench, an organization that creates space for sexual assault survivors. This week, she's educating them on a new law that will change the way sexual assault court cases play out. On Wednesday, Lieutenant Governor Diane Primavera, the current acting governor, signed HB 1072 into law. It will prohibit a defendant from using things like how a sexual assault victim dressed or their sexual history as proof of consent. Up until now, it was allowed.
Oh, 100% it's still happening.
Martinez and other supporters hope it'll encourage more survivors to come forward by preventing them from being interrogated with irrelevant or degrading information.
I do think that that is a concern a lot of survivors bring in when they're considering whether or not to report a case. They're like, well, I don't want to be dragged, I don't want to be misunderstood. So knowing that that won't be something they have to carry on top of this already potentially re-traumatizing experience, I think will empower some people, and we hope people feel more empowered to seek justice.
Martinez says more needs to be done to reduce the stigma of sexual assaults. But changes like this help her believe they will get there with time.
I'm glad we're catching up.
Jaleesa Irizarry, 9 News.
Now, this law expands on the existing rape shield law that stops certain pieces of a victim's information from being used as evidence in court. These changes take effect July 1st. This week, Adams County deputies will end their law enforcement contract with the town of Bennett. Adams County's been dialing back its agreement to help the small town with emergency responses already. Bennett falls partly in Adams County, partly in Arapahoe. Starting Wednesday, Arapahoe County deputies will take over the law enforcement services there. Starting Wednesday, crews will be doing a lot of work on Glenwood Canyon trails, including Hanging Lake, of course, the famous Hanging Lake. This will impact access to those trails through the summer, even the start of fall. This is still part of fixing the damage from major debris flows back in 2021. The city's working with the Forest Service to make those trails better able to handle high water and debris that would come in the future. Crews will also replace the 7 bridges on that trail. During construction, Hanging Lake Trail will be closed Monday through Friday and on some weekends once the bridge replacement starts. You can still make a reservation to visit Hanging Lake on the weekends that they will have that open. Those slots open up Tuesday morning.